Good afternoon, everyone. Now, I'm very pleased to welcome our guest speaker for our second session, Mr. Subhashish Ghosh from Altair India, for a session on simulation driven design and manufacturing. Mr. Subhashish Ghosh is a graduate production engineer and an MBA who spent over 14 years in design and development of product system for automobile and heavy earth moving equipment industries. In his present role as technical manager for design and manufacturing, he is helping product creators for creating the optimum and manufacturing defect free products. In spare time, he likes to create blogs at mechguru.com. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Shibashish Ghosh for a session on simulation driven design and manufacturing.
Hey, good afternoon all. Someone, can you please confirm if I am audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And my
Yes, sir, audible,
screen
yes.
and my screen is also
Yes,
probably
sir.
visible,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for joining, taking out time in Saturday and then joining over here for this session. I'm really thankful for it. So maybe in the next around say 45 minutes or so, I'll take you through different use cases of simulation driven design. Okay. Of course, since I'm from Altair, I will also talk a little bit about my organization and the tools what is used. But I promise that I will not be doing a marketing session on the tools. Okay, so you will definitely take something home after this session. So simulation driven design and manufacturing is the topic. And since I am a designer by profession, before joining Altair, I was working on one different organization on design role. So this topic is very close to my heart, right? But before going to the actual topic, so this slide is probably the only slide which will be talking about Altair. So let's spend maybe a couple of seconds there. So we are around 35 years old organization based out of Troy, Michigan. And of course, we have different offices in India. Now we started our journey 35 years ago with a software product called HyperMesh. Probably many of you already aware. But then thanks to all those supports from all those engineers and users, which are quite huge today worldwide, we today have more than 100 products, actually software products. Okay, and recently we got listed in NASDAQ. So we are now reasonably, we have grown quite well, and thanks to all of you for your support and using our tools. And since there are hundreds of software products, it will be very difficult to talk about all of them. What this slide helps me is that it kind of helped me to give you a very high level overview that what are the categories all those softwares are available from Altair. So if you see the buckets, those in the center, which has a heading, each of those heading is specifying the group of products, which will give you a hint that where all our softwares are available. And I kind of take care about this center one, which is highlighted in red, that is simulation driven design and manufacturing products, which has, as the name suggests, those are related to simulation driven design and manufacturing, okay, of mechanical, electronics, and all kind of product creation, product design. And then we also have some other products such as your machine learning, IoTs, and high performance computings and all. So now coming to the topic for the day, that is simulation driven design. Now, what we mean by simulation driven design? So you all know what is design, right? So now simulation driven design means what we are promoting for last, I think, 5 years or so with our technology is that when you are going for design, the performance, of course, is what is your starting point, should be your starting point. But we are going one step ahead in simulation driven design, and we are saying that not only performance, you also should consider manufacturability as your starting point and give equal importance, if not more, like performance when you are actually started creating a product concept. So by taking both this requirement, you will create your concept through the platform of Altair. And then when your concept will be ready, you will again validate that concept under the simulation driven design framework for both the requirements, that is your performance requirement and your manufacturing requirement. And as a result, what you will get when you will come out your concept, or when your design will be completed, using this methodology, you will not only ensure that your design will be structurally or say performance worthy or performance test worthy, but also you will ensure that your design will be manufacturing worthy. So that means you will not have manufacturing defects, or you will have manufacturing defects which you know already. Okay, so you will not get any surprise rather. So that is a nutshell, in nutshell, how this simulation driven design, or what is simulation driven design. Okay, now how these things really happen. Okay, so this whole journey of 45 minutes, I'll try to bring different way to explain you how these things can be, can happen. So how it works. So okay, so before that there is a why part as well. I missed that. So why we need simulation driven design, right? So there are design tools, then why we should need simulation driven design. So why we need design is basically because of two reasons. One is time and another is cost. Let's see how the time, how you will get benefited in terms of time if you follow simulation driven design methodology. Okay. So this graph, this X and Y axis, in X axis, this arrow is showing you the different stages of your product development. Okay, concept, detailed design, validation, and production. Right. So more or less, I mean, roughly categorized in this fashion. So it is going from very basic concept to till the production. Now, what happens is as you go on moving from concept to your production, your freedom for design, you must agree, you will probably agree with me that your freedom for design will keep on reducing. There are many reasons for that, so there are reasons like, you already have finalized some of the design, so your next department has also started preparing on the basis of your design. You might have already given some tooling kickoff to your supplier. You might have already started, you might have already planned your production facilities. So like that. So that's why you see that your design freedom will keep on reducing as you go on from concept to production. But at the same time, very interestingly, one more things happen, and which is kind of contradiction, right? So your product knowledge keeps on increasing, right? So your product knowledge is increasing. I'm sorry, it's not contradiction. I would say it is dichotomy. So your product knowledge keeps increasing as you go from concept to production. Obviously true, right? Because you will achieve lot many experience, right, from failure, from testing, from your feedback from peer, from feedback from your market survey. So your product knowledge will keep on increasing. But then that's where the dichotomy come, that you have a lot of product knowledge, but you have very less design freedom. So this dichotomy is what we are going to solve with simulation driven design. What we do is we gain most of this product knowledge through simulation driven design and manufacturing tools right up front when you are very early in your design stage. So what happens is, if you have now product knowledge and you also have design freedom, so as a result, what happens is you are creating far more efficient design without spending too much on the iterations. Okay, so that's the time part of it, of simulation driven design. Now the cost part of it is this, goes like this. So in the cost, again, we'll take the same stages, that concept, detailed design, validation, and production. You see that there are two curves over here. One is there are three things actually. It is this plot is showing the cost of design change. Okay, so cost of design change is what it is showing. And the number of changes also it is showing. So this gray pillars are showing the cost of design change, and the curves are showing the number of design changes. Okay, so now see that as you go from concept to your production, towards production, your cost per design change keep on increasing. Obviously, right? I mean, if you do a change in the production, you have to change so many things, right? If you do change in the concept, it is changing only on the CAD tube, that is your computer. So that you don't have to, it will not be costly. So now what is happening is for the very nature of simulation driven design, most of the concept, most of the change will happen in the concept stage, as you have seen from the previous plot as well. And if you go with the conventional approach, you will see that typically most of the changes, number of changes, comes from your validation stage. Okay, so where the cost of change is high. So that's how you see that this is why we need simulation-driven design and manufacturing to save time and cost. Now let's go how. Okay, how we can achieve that. So to do that, I will take a example of a two-wheeler suspension system, what you are seeing on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, right? So in that screen, what it is showing is that there is a two-wheeler suspension system, and there are two blue color brackets. Now I am going to redesign these blue brackets, the bottom one, with the simulation-driven design methodology. So the first step is, of course, to understand the performance target or quantify the performance target to redesign this component. So to quantify the performance target, since this is a part of a mechanism, you should have a mechanism simulation tool which will give you the loads coming on the system itself, on the brackets or the different joints of the brackets, because this system is complex. Now your system can be simple as well, where you may not have to do a mechanism study. You can directly know the load. So for example, the professor was showing in our previous presentation, the nose cone, where the loads are reasonably, those are static structures. So the loads might be known upfront. But if the system has a mechanism, then you may have to take a mechanism analysis tool to understand the load. So that's what it is showing. I don't know whether these arrows are visible or not. It is showing you the loads. Now, once you know the loads, you will create the recipe of your performance targets, right? So for different kind of load cases, and we call it those load cases. Like you, for this two-wheeler, it might be braking, cornering, then potholes, and all those kind of load cases you will be quantifying, and then you will use that. So that is that take care about the performance part. Now, what about the manufacturing part? Now, if I plug a manufacturing requirement on top of it, what will happen is that then the system will start doing the magic. Okay, so let's say that I am making a design for machining, right? Then system will take this same load, and system will take the input of your manufacturing process, which is machining in this case, and then system will redesign your concept, redesign your component, which is this one, to this one. Okay, so your initial design is this, and then your new design will be, your initial design is this, and your new design will be this, for taking machining into consideration. Now, if I take the casting as a consideration for manufacturing, you will see that your design will change, because now you have to your design should be such that it should be castable, right? It should be castable. Same design cannot be made through casting. So your design should change for the same load condition and same input, input geometry. And same goes true for, say, other kind of manufacturing process, such as your additive manufacturing process or so on. Right, accordingly it will change its shape. And all in all, what will happen is you will end up getting different or generating different kind of design based on your input loading condition and your manufacturing process requirement. And that's what you are seeing over here. And those designs are not only suitable for, say, conventional manufacturing process, but it can also be suitable for, say, 3D printing, different kind of 3D printing manufacturing process, or say some hybrid manufacturing process as well. So this is how it works on a very high level. Let's go into little detail with the same example, so that we can understand it little more in detail, so that we can apply it actually. So now let's say that same example, same use case, that is two-wheeler suspension bracket. Now what will happen is that you have to first so this now the color has changed over here. So you'll see that bottom there is a deep blue color, and the top there is a deep red color. We'll see that we'll design both of these bracket for different kind of manufacturing process. Okay, so let's see how. So the first, as we already seen in our previous slide, that you have to understand your loads. Yeah, and to understand your loads, there is a tool in our simulation driven design platform, which is Inspire, which is called Inspire Motion. So that Inspire Motion will help you to very quickly and easily let you know that what are the loads coming on each of the joints based on your system's behavior. Okay, so that's the first step. Second is required is the design space. So now what is design space? A new terminology, right? So the design space is essentially the space created out of your existing design in a way that after you you remove those features which are non-functional in nature. So if you go back to my previous slide, you see that this design has many cutouts and holes, but then there are the cutouts which are especially this one, this center, this side one, are actually non-functional in nature, in the sense that if you don't have those cutouts, still that the system will perform. Okay. However, there are other kind of holes, like the fixing holes. Those are essential features. You cannot remove those. If you remove those, your system will not work. So what we did is, while creating the design space, we kind of filled up all those features which are non-functional in nature, and that's how you get those filled space called design space. Right now, once you get the design space and once you know the loads, you then, and you also know the manufacturing process. So this is how you are telling the system that what is the manufacturing process you are looking for. So in this particular case, for this bottom bracket, we are now manufacturing, or we intend to manufacture it through 3D printing. And if you want to manufacture it through 3D printing, you have to tell the software that what is the direction of your printing, right? What is the direction of your printing? And that's what you are seeing over here. And that after you tell that three things, that is your direction of your printing, you gave your design space, and you also supplied your load cases, you see that you create, software will generate the concept which suits your requirement, all these three requirements, right? So that's how you created the concept of your design based on this requirement. Now, this is the first step. Now, the second step is the revalidating this concept for your both the requirement, that is your manufacturing requirement, to understand that will there be any manufacturing defect, and also the structural test. That means you are going to run a FE simulation to understand what is the strength and durability of this bracket, right? So to do that, after you create the concept, you will kind of create a detailed design. And then what you are doing over here, we are actually doing a manufacturing test or manufacturing process simulation. Now, this particular process is for 3D printing. So that's why you see that you are doing a 3D printing process simulation to understand the temperatures, distortion, or say residual stresses of different conditions, say after putting the supports and then removing the supports and so many other ways. So I'm not going into detail, but we are doing a manufacturing process simulation. And similarly, we will do we have done a structural simulation as well to understand the strength of this component. Now let's go back to the other bracket, where the top one, where we are going to design it through casting process. So same way, we already know the loads, and this design space has been created. Now, if I go over here, it will create the concept of your casting design now. So this is a casting design. And again, if it is a casting design, you have to go for casting process simulation after doing your structural simulation. So then casting process simulation means you have to create all those, either you can do very simply with just a component, or you can make it complicated, like putting some tooling system, feeding system, and riser systems and all, and you can do wide variety of casting process simulation to understand if there is any defects going to come when we are going to send this design to our manufacturing team. So what are the workflow we followed over here to summarize? So we started with our identification of the load, right? So identification of the load, it can be done very simply by the simple hand calculation, or you may have to take a help of our MBD tool, that is Inspire Motion. And then once you identify the load, you will supply that load to the concept generation algorithm within the Inspire platform, which is our simulation driven design platform. And then it will, and on top of that, you will also supply your process input. So you are supplying your force loads, and you are also supplying your process input, and then it will create the concept of design, right? That concept can be detailed either over here within the Inspire platform, or you can take it to your CAD system and detail it and bring it back over here. And then you go for performance validation, right? You take the same loads, whatever you have identified here, and do a performance validation study. And then you will go for process validation, where you will check for manufacturing process defects, right? So that's the workflow. And since these things are tightly integrated in a single platform, it gives wide varieties of possibilities to do a lot of what if studies, right? And which is the power of this platform. And this platform is extremely easy to use, but at the same time, at the back end, it takes lot of development effort and lot of algorithms to work together for this platform to work. So some of these algorithms are over here, I have mentioned, which are working in the back end of this platform. And you don't have to know anything. You just have to do and define your problem, and it will be taken care by this different algorithm or different solver in the back end. Okay. So right from our MBD algorithm, which is Inspire Motion, then our optimization algorithm, which is called Inspire Structure. And then there is very important structural validation algorithm, which is again Inspire Structure can do some of the part. And then of late, we have integrated our SimSolid, which is a meshless structural validation algorithm, which gives very accurate yet very fast structural simulation result. Then there are geometry algorithm, and then there are multiple types of manufacturing process algorithms. So for example, casting, Inspire Cast, sheet metal forming, Inspire Form, injection molding for metal and polymer, Inspire Extrude, injection molding, extrusion of metal and polymer, so Inspire Extrude, Inspire Print 3D for 3D printing, Inspire Mold for injection molding, and Inspire Polyfoam for doing your polyurethane foam kind of simulation. So all in all, in single platform, and which help you to do simulation driven design process, simulation driven design process for your any design problems. Okay, so let's take a little more complicated example, right? So that was a two-wheeler suspension. It was more of automotive problem. Now let's go ahead and check a example, which is a aerospace, right? So in this particular case, we are interested on these brackets. So these two brackets of landing gear. Okay, so you'll see how this methodology and this platform helps you to redesign this. Okay, so so this is the design. Okay, so this is the system what we have. Okay, and this is quite as you see that this is a landing gear, and it has lot many mechanism. So that means it is quite complex, right? It has lot many components which are connecting with each other, then which has to work in tandem, and then there are lot many loads are coming. So now out of this, I have to I am taking this and this part for my this study, right? So first thing what we have to do is we have to make sure that we know the loading condition, because this part is again part of a very big system. To know the load condition or identify the load, we again have to take help of our Inspire Motion. So again, Inspire Motion is a very easy to use tool, where if you bring your geometry, it kind of automatically identify the different joints. If you see on the top image over here, it is kind of identifying the joints for you. And joints in any MBD system, for the people who use MBD tool, is a quite painful things to define, which is taken care automatically. It helps to define the different kind of contact definition. So that's what you see in this image over here. It is trying to detect the contact between the wheels and your land, right? Because as soon as it will touch the ground, those load has to be transferred, and that will be only be possible to transfer through your contact definition. It helps you to define different kind of springs and other actuators, and it has lot of materials which are customizable. And then ultimately we will do the simulation over here, which has been shown over here, and then you will see that how the loads are coming on each of those joints, right? You will understand that how the loads are coming on each of the joints, and those are very important thing. And those are the outcome for this stage, where you will identify the loads. Now, once you identify the load, you will create your design space. So that's what you are seeing that I have. If you remember my previous slide, this part is different. So this is the part which I am going to targeting now for redesign. Now, if you see that I have created a design space, same philosophy I have applied. I removed the all non-functional feature and I made a design space. And then what I am doing over here, I am trying to generate the concept, right? What this red arrow is suggesting is that this is my printing direction. Again, I am targeting for 3D printing process over here, right? I'm targeting a 3D printing process over here. And then this is my printing direction. And if you see this in concept one, if I choose, this is my printing direction, my design is coming something like this. I created another concept where I just reversed my printing direction. I'm not even changing my manufacturing process. I'm reversing my printing direction. And you see that software will give you a different kind of concept. So if you compare this concept and this concept, both are capable of taking the loading, whatever we have calculated in previous step. But by changing the direction, you will see that it is giving a different kind of concept, because ultimately it has to, it is related to your least amount of support as far as 3D printing is concerned. So it will give you a design because based on the printing direction, it will give you the list in a design which will have the least amount of support. So that's why you see that changing in the design is changing the, changing in the printing direction is changing the design altogether. Right? So once you have that, once you have the design ready for both the concept, that is concept one and concept two, concept one and concept two difference is that the change in printing direction and thus the change in the geometry. And when you do that, you'll see that now the next step is your structural validation and process validation. In the top row, you are saying the first column is what is talking about the structural validation of the concept one. It is taking the same load and new design and trying to validate that what are the stress and displacement coming, and that's what it is trying to depict. I don't know whether those things are visible on those numbers, but this is what it is trying to do over there. And on the next, yeah, so that's the area where the loads are coming actually. So when the system hitting the ground, right? So stress, it is showing the stress and displacement plots. Now, if I go to the next column, so that is where we are doing a process validation. So that means we are printing each of the layers because we considered that 3D printing should be a process. And it is showing you the distortion value. So this is the distortion value. If you see over here, so in this corner, you see that those legs are actually, the distortion is a little bit higher, right? Now, we did the same thing for second concept, which is again showing in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. And we are again trying to check the stress and displacement. And we saw in both the cases, actually stress and displacements are well within the acceptable limit. But if you see the printing direction here while simulating, you see that it is in opposite. So that's what we have assumed. And as a result, what we are achieving over here, we are achieving little lesser displacement than your concept one. So the idea over here is to show the different possibilities you can play use this tool for different kind of what if condition when you are really designing something very complex and very, very delicate as far as the targets are concerned. Now, this is the first bracket of this suspension, this landing gear. The another bracket is we have done again. So let me go to next one. So another bracket, which is this one, okay, so that same bracket we have again designed for casting as well. So you see that now it will give you a different kind of design. So your 3D printing design and the casting design is different. And again, you can check your manufacturing process. So you can check your manufacturing process. Here it is casting. So you'll see that you can understand your different types of manufacturing, different configuration for manufacturing process. Either you can take a single part and then you can put your risers, or you can put a feeder and all together, right? So that's how it is happening. And then next, this is the process it is showing for simulation driven design and manufacturing for this aircraft bracket. Now, so far, all the examples, whatever I have shown, are all kind of solids kind of components. What about the sheet metal kind of design, right? What about the sheet metal kind of design? So let me show that how you can work for even for sheet metal kind of design, or say plastic injection molded kind of design as well. Okay, so let's see that. So let's say that you have a component like this, which is a sheet metal components, where you want to follow or apply the simulation driven design and manufacturing methodology, right? So just a minute, I'll just. Okay, so now let's see that how this works. How this works when you have a sheet metal kind of design. Okay, so in this particular case, what our need is to achieve achieve a higher frequency. Higher frequency means that higher stiffness. So right now what we are achieving is that this is a sheet metal component where we are achieving around say 1041 hertz as my frequency. But what we have to achieve is we have to achieve more than 1100. So let's see that how this simulation driven design methodology works over here. So how we can do that for sheet metal kind of design is that we have to reposition or reorient this what is called beads. Okay, so we have to reorient these beads. So to do that, what we'll do is we have to first get rid of this existing beads. Okay, existing beads, and then what we'll do is we'll take help of our same simulation driven design methodology, and then what we'll do is it will allow you to redesign or recreate your ribbing pattern. So if you see that my previous ribs were somewhere here, and then it has recreated those ribs pattern. And if you see my existing design over here, I'm getting a frequency of say around say 1000 hertz or something like that. And however, when I recreate those design pattern, I see that there are many options possible, by the way. Okay, so I can go up to say 1300 hertz as well. Okay, I can go up to 1300 hertz as well. And but then those designs are getting complicated. So those designs are getting complicated. So I choose this design, which is little lesser than 1340, of course. But I see that my tooling design is getting much more simpler over here, right? So I see that my tools are much more simpler in this particular case, right? So that has been selected, and when that has been selected, you see that I achieve a quite I mean I crossed 1100 hertz over here. And then once that is done, that is first part, that is your structural requirement. What about your process requirement? In this particular case, I have to manufacture it through forming process, and that's what you see that this particular design is giving me around 48% thinning. So this area, it is going around say 48% of thinning, sheet metal thinning, which may not be acceptable. So then what we did is we kind of redesigned it. We kind of redesigned it, and then Acha. Okay, so we have to redesign this, and then we have to make sure that these fillets and this this draft angle are redesigned. Okay, so that's why you see that your fillets and draft angles are redesigned. And then after redesigning, you see that your thinning pattern has thinning percentage has reduced, right? So it has gone less than previous one, right? So that's how you can do simulation driven design or apply simulation driven design for sheet metal kind of design as well, right? So after you do that, you can even go for further process validation as well. You can take a tools, complete tooling system, and then you can do the thinning calculation, forming calculation, and so on and so forth, right? And ultimately what will happen is that you see that your baseline design was um, 1041 hertz, which was the first modal frequency, and it has increased to 1155. And not only that, I could achieve that with 1 sheet. So earlier it was 1.2 right? So, and as a result, I am not only achieving a stiffer design, but also I'm achieving a lighter design. So that's the benefit you get when you go for, you know, simulation driven design. And this is the complete workflow. So we started with the existing CAD. We did a baseline, understanding of our frequencies, and then we go for concept generation. And then once we go for concept generation, we can check our manufacturing process simulation. So you will check our manufacturing process simulation. Since this is a sheet metal, so we check our sheet metal forming simulation, and then we achieve required thickness acceptable within acceptable level, and then finally we find out the detailed design. Okay, so that's how we achieved a lighter design, but stiffer at the same time. Okay, so now again I will go back, come back to the slide where I started. Right, I started with this slide where it is talking about the complete platform, Inspire platform, and what are the tools available in this Inspire platform, which is our simulation driven design platform. So one of the another important tool within this platform is our structural validation tool. Since structural validation is an integral part of the simulation driven design process, and which is a very important part, like our manufacturing process simulation. So I would like to spend some time showcasing some other capabilities of structural validation, where we recently integrated a tool or a technology which is called Altair SimSolid. Okay, SimSolid is a new technology which has been integrated in this platform. The aim to give you more power for structural validation side of it. So now, what are the benefit of SimSolid, or rather, what is SimSolid? Right? What is SimSolid? So SimSolid is a structural simulation tool which is integrated within our Inspire platform, and which operates directly on original unsimplified CAD geometry, and it does not create mesh. Okay, so it is a structural simulation solver which operates directly on original unsimplified CAD geometry and does not create mesh. So now, what are the benefit of this bold words? So it works on original unsimplified CAD geometry. That means you don't have to do any defeaturing or simplification, geometry simplification. You don't have to do that. Now, we believe with SimSolid that will bring much more, give you much more credibility of your simulation, because now you are actually simulating, doing structural simulation of a part which is going to be there in the field, rather than manipulating the features. So if you remove some holes, some of the tiny features, and then doing the simulation, that means actually you are not simulating the same part which is there in the field. So which we don't have to do with SimSolid, because SimSolid don't require that, right? It is capable of solving with all those detailed feature. And it don't create mesh. It don't create mesh means you don't have to spend time in creating the mesh. Okay, you have saved time in your geometry simplification, and you also save time in creating not creating mesh. And also it gives result in seconds to minutes. Okay, it gives results in seconds to minutes. Okay, so that's the most important thing. So if you have to do very complex structure, so if you have to do very complex simulation of very large complicated structure, and you have to do a wide variety of simulation, right? You have to do a wide variety of simulation without spending much time. So SimSolid is the solver for you. You can use it. So for this tool to show, it will be injustice to show only on the PowerPoint. I'll go to the tool itself so that I can show you that how is the speed, or what is the speed what I am going to I'm talking about, right? So this is the tool. Okay, so let me very quickly bring a geometry, right? I'll bring a model, CAD model. I can bring any kind of CAD model which can be neutral or say proprietary, such as your CATIA, ProE, SolidX, SolidWorks, and all. And also I can bring, like, Parasolid, Step, and all those things. So I am bringing a parasolid file over here. So I'm importing this CAD model. Oops, not this one. I'm sorry. So let me go to the one where product demo model. Okay, so let me bring this one. Not this one again. Sorry. So let me bring this one. Okay, so now this is a farm seeder assembly. It is quite large. I mean, it is not extremely large, but it has large number of components and large number of joints and all those things. So let's see that how SimSolid helps us to solve it very quickly. So how to do that? First to set it up, what you have to do is, first thing what you have to do is you have to make sure that since this is assembly, all those assemblies, all those connections are connected properly. So that's how to check contact. So you'll see that it automatically detects those contacts, and I can change those contacts as well. I can change to different kind of. So right now it is bonded contact, but I can go over here and then change it to some other type of contacts as well. So for now, bonded contact should be good enough. So my contact definition is done. Now, next thing what we will do is I'll go for my material definition. So there is a material library, and you can choose your material library, or you can create your own material as well. Okay. And next, what you will do is you will apply your loads and boundary conditions. So what are the loads and boundary condition I am applying? So I am applying this, since this is a farm seeder, so it will be plugged with your soil. So that's why you will have to apply a support over here. So you have to apply a support over here, right? You have to apply support. So this is my support where rotation is free. So you have to apply support over here, right? I'm applying a support, and at the same time, I'm making the rotation free, right? I will apply another support. I'll apply another support, which is over here. So I'll apply support, another support, which is over here. And then I'll also allow some of the degrees of freedom free. So essentially I'm applying those lateral degrees of freedom free. So essentially this attachment will be connected to a tractor actually. So that pulling load also have to apply. So maybe I'll apply 5,000 Newton as my pulling load. Okay, so I'll apply 5,000 Newton as my pulling load. So let me apply some load, right? And then I'll apply some more kind of abuse load in terms of G. So let's say that I will apply a 4G downward load in this particular location. So if I make it like this, so if I make a 4G load over here, and that's it. You don't have to do nothing else to do a structural simulation. So this is a part which you have generated concept through our simulation driven design platform, and then you have to revalidating it. You are revalidating it, right? So all you have to do is you have to go over here, click analysis, and I am analyzing this large assembly live, right? I am not solving, I have not solved it before. So right now I am solving it. So let's see the time it takes to solve. Okay, so maybe it is 12:43. I don't have a seconds in with mine. I don't have a mechanism to measure second by. So it is 12:43. Oh, it's done. Okay, so maybe it is not even a minute. So that's why I was more, concerned about not measuring, being able to measure in seconds, but it is done. So now if I check the result, I go back, right? So it will give me the results. So this is the displacement. If I go to say any other things, you can check stress, strain, displacement, reaction forces, and all those things, pretty much what you do. So these are the stress plot, what it is having. You can do animation and all those things. So now let's see another interesting things over here. So let's check the stress in a particular location like here. So let's see the stress over here. So this is telling me around 39 MPa. Let me also see the displacement over here. So this is telling me a displacement of 3.9 mm. So 39 MP and 3.9 mm. So now as a design engineer, what if I would like to reduce this value further? So what I'll do, right? So as a design engineer, there might be idea that, okay, why not to apply some reinforcement in this area? So if I have to do that, it's very simple over here. All you have to do is I have to go to my geometry tab, and then I'll go and create another part and create the reinforcement right here within the tool, right? So what I'll do is I'll apply reinforcement, right? I'll apply reinforcement like this, and then I'll pull this guy inside, and I'll make it bigger. So I'll make it bigger. Maybe I'll make it up to this. Okay, I'll make it up to this. Okay, so now it is extra. So let me cut the rest of the unwanted things. So let me remove the unwanted things. So maybe I'll remove this and this. And then what I'll do is I'll convert bodies to parts. So let me remove those things. So this is my new design now. So the new design, I have extra part, which is a reinforcement. Now, since I have extra part, I also have to make sure that I have a contacts established, right? So it has to be, it is very important that your contact is established to have a correct analysis. And then you will do the same process again. I will run again, right? I'll run it again, okay? So I'll run it again to compare what is happening to the stress, what was over here, right? So it is done within few seconds, it is done. I'll go over here. So this is my new design. Now, if you remember my previous stress values, the stress was around 39 MPa. So it has become 13 MPa. If I go back to my previous result, so this is my previous result. So this was 39 MPa and 3.9 mm as my displacement. Now in the new design, so I got 3.8 mm displacement, but my stress dropped down from 39 MPa to 13 MPa. So within a few minutes, I could come out with a new design. Not only that, I could quickly validate it and understand that this design or this design modification, how it is affecting to my to the performance of the system. So this is the power of SimSolid integration within our Inspire platform, which is a simulation-driven design platform. So whatever I have discussed so far on the Inspire, this is added benefit. So that means now you have option to, after you come to that concept stage 3, so that is our step, step 2 or step 3, you have an option to do the performance validation using this super fast methodology with SimSolid, and which will save a lot of time, and you can do a lot of iteration. So what are the benefit you will get? So if you use this technology of SimSolid for your structural validation part, as you've seen that it will reduce lot of time, right? So if you see in the top, this row is talking about the conventional way of doing structural validation, which has lot many steps. It has geometric cleanup, it has meshing, it has connection definition, then it has lot of time in solution that is solving. So that geometric cleanup and meshing is altogether deleted, not required. So that's why you see that these two blocks are not there in SimSolid. And your simulation time itself is super fast, and so the connection definition. So all in all, you are saving more than 80% on an average, right? With SimSolid, since this is capable of solving very large, very complicated and the assemblies and geometries, you don't have to shy away about the size of the problem, okay? Which was the case conventionally, right? If you do a very large assembly, say this particular structural assembly has around 8,000 components. So those kind of problem takes drastically long time if you try to conventionally solve it, which is not the case for SimSolid. And third benefit is that since this is a super fast as far as the validation is concerned, now if you have multiple concept, you don't have to take a judgmental decision. You can just run through FEA very quickly and take a call that which one is performing better. So that way you are not losing any opportunity to get optimum design, right? So those things are not there. There are many customers, right from aerospace, Israel Aerospace, there is the Israel Aerospace industry, to say automotive, so commercial vehicle, then Renault, then off-highway, to say consumer electronics. So there are wide range of customers for this our simulation-driven design platform. So there are many actually. I have just a glimpse of it, or the part of it over here, right? And there are many companies who have actually given a feedback that how they have get benefited. And if you are interested, you can follow this link and you will understand that how their experience is with this technology, right? With that, I think I am almost done. I will just summarize where I have started. So we have started with our simulation-driven design methodology, where we say that not only the performance targets or the force, you also consider the manufacturing requirement upfront when you are designing something or generating the concept. And this platform of Inspire allows you to do that, to generate concept considering both the requirements. And then once you generate the concept, you take that concept generated and validate against both the structural as well as your manufacturing requirements. So that is what we have summarized, and these are the steps. First step is your load identification. You can do it through either hand calculation, or you can use Inspire Motion, which is a integrated tool within the Inspire platform, which is MBD based tool, which will let you know the loads coming on each of the joints. Then in the second stage, you supply that load, and then you also supply your process requirement, and then generate your concept. And then once the concept is generated, you take that concept generated and detail it. Either you can detail it within Inspire platform, or you can take it out, that generated concept, and do it in your CAD detailing platform such as your CATIA Pro E, and then bring it back over here. And then you do a performance validation. Either you can do it Inspire's native structural validation algorithm, which is a mesh-based technology, or you can take the performance validation with our Inspire's SimSolid algorithm, which is a mesh-less technology. So both the options are available with you to do. Either you can do a mesh-based technology, or you can do the performance validation with a mesh-less technology. And then finally, you do the manufacturing process validation with wide variety of manufacturing process simulation tools, such as casting, forming, extrusion, injection molding, 3D printing, as well as polyfoam, right? So now these things are, since this is a platform for simulation driven design, you can take benefit of all these steps, but it is not always necessary that you have to follow from start to end. You can also take benefit of the individual steps as well. So for example, your aim, maybe for some problem, you just want to do the structural validation. Absolutely okay. You can just do the structural validation with our structural validation capability within Inspire platform. Or you can just do the concept optimization. So that is absolutely fine. Or you can just generate the design, or you can just do the motion study. Okay, or you can just do the manufacturing process simulation of the part which you have already designed elsewhere. So either you can take benefit of combined capability of all the capabilities of Inspire platform, and then create your concept, or you can take benefit of each of those capabilities as and when required, and both way is okay for Inspire platform to use. Okay, and now coming to the tools what are there in the backend. So these are the tools. It has Altair Inspire Motion, which is the MBD tool, then Inspire Structure, which does the optimization, run the optimization. Then Altair SimSolid and Inspire Structure again can help you to do structural validation, either through meshless method through Altair SimSolid algorithm, or structural mesh-based method with Inspire Structure. Then for the geometry creation, we use Inspire Studio. And then for the casting, we have Inspire Cast, forming Inspire Form, extrusion Inspire Extrude, and Inspire Print 3D. And there are many more actually. Injection molding and polyfoam is not there in this slide. So with that, I'll end my session, and I'll be open to have any question in this
Thank you, sir.
regarding this. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the session.
Yep.
I just want to inform the attendees that please immediately fill the feedback form before it closes at 1 o'clock. Sir, we have a little Q&A session with you now. A question from Dr. Keyur Joshi is that what exactly is the simulation methodology? There's a good reason for defeaturing meshing and simulation rigor. How are you able to bypass that? And in most cases, in change of design of a part would change inertia, dynamics, natural frequency of the assembly, leading to change in load. Does the tool deal with that?
Okay, so I think, I believe your question is that the structural validation with the meshless method. So that's probably your question. Yeah. So in that case, we don't need defeaturing. Now, why we need defeaturing? As you said that there is a good reason to do defeaturing. The reason for defeaturing is that conventional way, which are mesh-based technology, if you don't do defeaturing, you will end up creating large number of elements. And if you end up creating a large number of elements to capture those small features, your solver will take a lot of time. So that's how the concept of defeaturing comes into the FE world, which we also have promoted, because we are coming from this mesh based background. And in fact, in Inspire platform as well, there is a Inspire structure, which is a mesh based structural simulation algorithm which promotes defeaturing. Okay, but since SimSolid is a high capacity solver which does extremely fast solving, we don't it don't slow it down even if you have a small features. So that's why we say that we don't have to spend time defeaturing it, and don't have to introduce artificial mass inertia matrix to the solver by defeaturing the area where it is not required, where it is which are not there in the actual part. So
Yes,
that's the reason.
yes, sir.
And second question, now he asked another question that how it take care about the mass moment inertia. Yeah, it is taken care. So for example, if you go for optimization, after optimization your mass mass structure will change and your inertias will change. Now if you do if that change, and if it is a part of a bigger system of say your landing gear, you can redo that motion study with the new concept, and then it will take care of the new mass momentum, mass properties again.
Okay, sir. Sanjay was asking, sir, what's the difference between OPSI struct versus Inspire struct, and how the use of SimSolid will decrease the fame or use of hypermesh?
Okay, so the second part is little more non-technical, so I'll probably see it later. So in the
Yes,
first
sir.
part, it is OptiStruct and Inspire. OptiStruct, if you see the second block, there is a optimization which is actually powered by OptiStruct. So Inspire platform is a platform of simulation-driven design where many solvers are used which are there or which are proven in Altair. So for example, MBD solver is motion solve, which is proven. So what I would say is that OptiStruct is a part of Inspire platform, or some part of the OptiStruct is actually part of the Inspire platform now. So there is nothing like difference. So there are many more things OptiStruct can do separately as well, which Inspire cannot do. For example, if you go to say now in OptiStruct also has, now we have introduced lot many things. For example, explicit nonlinear analysis, then we introduce our fatigue codes and all. So those has not been part of Inspire version of OptiStruct as well. But to simplify the things, I would say that let's assume that everything is of OptiStruct is kind of OptiStruct is a solver in the backend of Inspire platform. So likewise, any other solvers, many solvers are there. And then meshless versus meshed. No, we don't think there is going to be a clear winner, that whether meshless technology will be there in future or only mesh based technology will be there. Each of them has their own benefit. For example, if you want to do a very localized detailed study, say fatigue, meshless technology is not going to work in near future. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so for there you have to go for mesh based technology. So each of them has their own area, and if you choose as a company or an organization to choose the right technology at the right time, you will be beneficial.
Thank you, sir. I think we are limited by time, sir, so we have to close this Q&A session. All the attendees whose question sir wasn't able to answer, you can see his email address in the bottom left corner of the screen. And now, Sir Renaud Lenson, sir, will like to give you a vote of thanks. And rest of the attendees, please fill the feedback form. Thank you, sir.
Subhashi sir, no, it was a great lecture. No, it was a visual treat. To be precise, you have inspired us with Altair Inspire. So that's the thing. No, from automobile, from two-wheeler to the flying three-wheeler, you have given a very good examples, case studies. So that will help all the mechanical brains that we have these tools. No, all the students you can use these tools. No, we have Altair is offering no free courses as well as certifications. So you can go to the Altair website and you can do these courses. You can get certified, and there are a lot of internship and job opportunities that is offered through that platform. and even the students, you can go to the basics of engineering mechanics and other things, and you can just simulate these basic models that you have done. Whatever you studied, you can have a very good understanding. You can visually, you can learn what are the forces that will be acting, which will really, you will be able to appreciate the concepts that is in mechanical engineering. I really thank you, sir. Thanks for this wonderful session, and I also thank all the participants.
Thank you. Thanks, VIT team, and especially Renan sir for your, so long planning, and so you planned this session, this
Yes,
event
yes,
so successfully.
yes,
And thanks for all the participants for giving us time and listening to us. Please carry home any of this concept, and you can always go to altairuniversity.com. There are wealth of information available for free. Please visit that, and you apply this technology. Of course, if you have any more question which I could not answer, and if you have any follow-up question for the question I am answered, please feel free to connect me. Thank you very much, and take care.
yeah, I insist the students to go and pursue a career in simulation driven designing and development. And thank you, sir. And dear participants, next session is on 2:30. No, it is the session is role of materials in failure of mechanical components and factography. No, the session is given by Dr. Rahul Ramesh Kulkarni. He is a faculty from NIFFT India. So we'll be, joining by 2:45. Sorry, not 2:45, 2:15. Sorry, we'll be joining by 2:15 p.m. So hope to meet you. Thank you, everyone.